Hello, everyone. Welcome to Diversified, where our mission is to have you live in a life filled of wealth, health, and happiness. Today, we have a very special guest, the one, the only, the lovely Jen Groover, who is an empowerment and business expert, author, motivational speaker, entrepreneur, spokesperson, TV and podcast host, and a media contributor. Jen has been listed on Forbes 50 founders to follow and was the Motivational Speaker of the Year in 2019 from Speakercon, as well as Woman of the Year by PhillyMan Magazine. And now she's here. How you doing, Jen?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, and quite accomplished. We're excited to get some tidbits from you.
Thank you.
So, absolutely. So recently you were named as the new Chief Impact Officer at Canvas Me, which I love that title. So first, congratulations. And I'd love to know what training you're bringing to that organization to improve personal development skills, because I think it's really, I think our listeners will really like what you're doing there.
Thank you. So I actually helped the founders come up with that title because I teach what I call impact skills. So you just said personal development. And so for so many years, people would call them soft skills. And a lot of companies would back burner them. And a lot of people didn't realize how important and valuable these types of skill sets were in resiliency, adaptability, and just how do you take from where you are to where you want to go and not feel like you're constantly forcing success or happiness, but getting there in a good state of flow. And so it's through these impact skills that I believe so strongly, after teaching human behavior for 20 some years, that when people know these types of skill sets and understand how to utilize them in their lives, they can get from here to there so much more quickly. And often people just don't know what they don't know. So we're walking around the world assuming everyone came from great families or had some sort of education around this, and most people never did. And so they kind of stumble through life. And so I always call these impact skills because they're the skills that I believe make the most impact in every human being. And so the beauty industry, amongst a lot of other industries that are customer facing, and I work in all industries, but for Canvas Me specifically, a lot of people have trade training, but they don't have personal development training. And so what happens is you have people who are working with customers and working in cultures that haven't had this type of training. So there could be a lot of drama. There can be a lot of egos fighting over who's in charge. And so a lot of needless energy is wasted, and a lot of success is diminished by, again, just not knowing what they don't know. And so I'm excited. As I mentioned, I've worked in so many different industries, and this is just one more industry that I'm excited to see because I believe a lot of people, it's not that they don't want to be more self-aware and mindful. It's just if they were never suggested those tools or what was possible around that, they just didn't know how to even find the information. So when you see those people just get a hold of the information, their transformation is so incredible.
So you talk about these soft skills or impact skills. Give me a couple examples. Like, what are some of the more impactful impact skills that you really focus on, or you think most people really benefit from or lack?
Well, we saw in the last 2 years of resiliency and adaptability. So those are muscles, they're emotional muscles. And if somebody has never had to train that emotional muscle for 30, 40, 50 years, and then all of a sudden, what just happened in 2020 happened, and their life always went according to plan, and then all of a sudden the plan blew up in front of them, those types of people, that characteristic or lack there of that skill, really started to spiral out of control because they felt like everything was out of control and they weren't able to harness that emotional muscle of resiliency and being able to adapt. And that ties in with your mindset. So somebody who's resilient can say, okay, here's a problem. How do I solve it? They're solution driven, and they have the mindset of, okay, there's always an opportunity and obstacle. I'm going to find the goodness in this. I'm going to see the solution faster and be creative and strategic. So they don't become the victim to the situation, where people that lack resiliency, they are victims of the mindset, so that they do fall short of succeeding through trying times and turmoil. Or emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a broad statement,
Sure.
but without emotional intelligence, you're usually a reactive person who lacks awareness of self and awareness of others. And so I call this the human pinata syndrome, where people kind of go through life with a blindfold on, swinging the bat, trying to hit the prize, and wind up hitting other people along the way because they're blind to their own blind spots. And so emotional intelligence allows people to be obviously more self-aware and able to control their emotional state. So when things do happen or somebody triggers them, they know how to take a deep breath, they know how to reframe their thought process, and they know how to effectively lead or engage in communication in an effective way. Where people that lack emotional intelligence react, they scream, they lose their temper, they shame, they're not effective leaders at all. And they usually lead by fear and intimidation. Again, often because sometimes they just don't know how to do it differently. And so my goal is always to teach these skills to help everyone be ultimately their best version self. And that's what impact skills do. Teaches everyone how to be better.
Okay. And how do you teach, how do you take someone who's innately not good at these skills? So how do you take me from poor at this to it becoming a strength? Like, what does that look like?
So that's an incredible question. I actually have spent 20 plus years in teaching human behavior, trying to unlock the key to how do you do it in a simplified way to teach anyone at any level to get from where they are to where they want to go. And so I created this book called the M.O.R.E Method because I was teaching the M.O.R E Method before I created the book, because I needed to create a framework. People like simplification of these big thought processes, right? These are multiple disciplines we're talking about here. Being self aware and being mindful and emotional intelligence and resiliency, all of that is a combination of psychology, physiology, nutrition, neuroscience, quantum physics. There's a lot of sciences involved in this. So I always pushed myself to figure out, how do I take all the best of practices from these sciences and create a framework that anyone could actually apply to their life? So the M.O.R.E method is actually an acronym. And I call it the M.O.R.E method because when anyone applies this methodology to their life, they will get more out of life. And by being your best self, you'll always get more out of life. So one of my taglines for that is be more to achieve more, be more to get more. Once you become more, everything else becomes more. So the acronym actually breaks down your direct question. What do you need to do? How do you even begin the process? And so M stands for mindfulness in all that you do. And once you want to transform, or once I go into an environment to teach people to transform, I teach them how to become more mindful. I actually created an auditing checklist of every day in your life to audit all these areas of your life where are you being mindful and could you do better, and teaching reflectiveness. A lot of people just kind of go through life and they're not reflecting, and so mindfulness is learning how to reflect and evaluate every day where you are to where you want to go. The O is optimization of your physiological state. So a lot of people don't realize how they treat their body affects how they feel. People often never make this connection to,
Sure.
are you working harder or smarter, right? And you're working harder if you're not optimizing your body properly. And this isn't about dieting or a path of perfection by any means, but it's a conscious awareness of, if I eat this, I'm going to feel like this. If I don't prioritize sleep, I'm going to be impatient. I'm not going to be mentally clear. I'm not going to be the best version self. So the O really teaches people how to see there's so much of our control in what we choose to do to our bodies. So much of life is out of our control, but what we do to our bodies is really in our control. So if you can control the controllables, that's the first area to begin.
Right.
And and then the R stands for learning how to be more responsive than reactive. That's the emotional intelligence component. And teaching people how to really have a processing skill set where they can process their emotions, whether it's that quick or over time. It's still a process, and it starts with pausing, it starts with reflecting, reframing, and then re-engaging when you're ready, because we've all been around the people that just anytime things aren't going right, they freak out.
Sure.
They're not getting the most out of life, and they're not going to be able to be their best self without that skill set. And then lastly is the A. A stands for learning to excel in all aspects of life. So this is the part where I teach people you can't just be great in one aspect of your life and think everything else is going to be great other than your self-development. So there's four core quadrants of our lives. There's our personal development, there's our professional achievements,
Right.
there's our relationships, and then there's our health. And most people think if I'm really successful, then I'm successful. But we both know that then all of a sudden they wake up in their 40s and 50s and they don't have their health. They have failed marriages, and they have relationships with their kids where they don't even know who they're sending off to college because they focus so much on one area and not why this whole podcast exists, right? The holistic health of their oneself, mental, emotional, spiritual, relationships. And so that's the framework I tell everyone to begin with. If you want to get more out of life, if you want to become more self-aware, use that acronym and start to evaluate those four areas of your life, and you will start to get better at being your best self.
Makes sense. Health, wealth, and happiness. I'm a big proponent of it, as you are well aware. So,
Yeah.
okay, is there a demographic, Jen, that or a type of person, women, men, age, part of their career or type of level of individual? Who does this work best for in your experience? Who would really benefit? Not that everyone couldn't, but have you noticed this really works better with fill in the blank?
So the answer really is everyone. But the thing is that if kids learn this, there would need to be a ton of reprogramming later in life, right? So I would love to see this kind of information taught in schools, starting from first grade and up, or kindergarten. We actually do teach it a lot in preschools about kindness and empathy, and then somehow that gets thrown out the window, and these other things get prioritized, and not built upon. But where I find people seek this the most, because it really does help anyone at any stage of life, is when they're in pain. And when I mean pain, I don't mean physical pain necessarily. I mean where they feel like they can't get to the next level. They feel like they keep having failed relationships. They keep feeling like they aren't happy. They feel unfulfilled. They
Stuck.
feel like,
That's like
yeah, they're
stuck. It sounds.
stuck in pain. And so people I should say they squander this information even more when they feel like, I want to get out of where I am to get to where I want to go. And so that person is just sucking up all of this type of content as much as possible to get out of that stuck feeling.
Sure.
And those are the people you see take the greatest satisfaction in the growth process, and often want to turn around and teach the world everything they didn't know.
Right. Makes sense. Plus, they probably are the ones most in need. So, okay, this isn't in elementary school. This isn't in college. This isn't in grade school or high school. How does one, i.e. you, Jen, become a expert? And you're quite accomplished here, so I think it's fair to call you an expert. How does one become an expert in this field? What is it, self-taught? I mean, I don't help me figure that out.
So there is a lot of self-teaching in it. I had a really dysfunctional childhood. So that dysfunctional childhood was the pain point for me to seek to get to another place. But when I went to college and studied psychology, I realized everyone should learn psychology. Everyone should understand psychology. Everyone would benefit in understanding human behavior. And it's not, again, something that's primarily taught in school and should be taught in school. And so once I learned that, and I was a fitness competitor, and I started to see the connection between the mind and the body, and how one fuels the other. It's not that they're codependent on each other's success. I made it my life's mission to keep learning and growing and evolving, hiring mentors, sitting at their feet, learning everything possible, trying to read every book possible, take every course possible, not just college credit courses, but courses beyond that, learning anything about human behavior and human sciences that would help me understand how to improve myself and then help improve others. And there's nothing that I teach that I haven't gone through myself. And I think, it goes back to that dysfunctional childhood. The fact that I was able to pull myself out of those situations and that level of trauma and then thrive in life shows me that it works. It's
That's
not
cool.
theory, it's actual practical life skills.
Right, which makes sense. So give us obviously name shall remain nameless, but give us an example of someone you saw that they lacked this and you're coaching to this, and then you saw the success stories, right? It's what keeps me going in my business. It's not about dollars and cents. It's about fixing something that is broken and helping people realize their dreams. So help or show. I always find it interesting when I speak to people such as yourself that are doing real transformation for individuals. I'd love to hear a great example.
There's so many examples.
I'm sure.
Uh, which category do I pick in? Do I pick health and wellness, relationships, or finances?
Well, I got finances, so do one or the other two.
Okay. So let's do health and wellness because this is a universal
Sure.
issue, right? So it's I don't even need to pinpoint a person. I need to pinpoint a thing that everyone's going to understand when I say. January 1st every year, what happens? People make New Year's
Sure.
resolutions,
Of course.
and the gyms get flooded year after year after year. And by about January 21st, those people that came back on January 1st are usually no longer there. Although their intentions were great, they set goals, they forced themselves to the gym for the majority of those 21 days. After that, it's usually the same people that were already there the year before and the year before and the year before. So why is that? Well, because of belief systems. And this is any category, but I'm using the health and wellness as an example. If you don't change your beliefs around something, you will never change your outcomes around something. So you use the word transformation, which is awesome. I'm so glad you did, because there's a big difference between transforming and motivating. Most people try to motivate themselves or others through change, and it's not sustainable. Motivation's only the igniter to change. It's the excitement to make the change. But you have to go through a transformational process to actually have long-lasting change. So in this gym example, why is it that most people give up after 21 days? Most people have beliefs around exercise and diet that are negative, that are painful, that are torturous, that it's just a horrible experience. Instead of changing their beliefs and thinking, I love exercise. How do I even get to liking exercise? So here's the secret. Whenever you want to make a change, you need to identify the beliefs that you currently have that have to change. So let's just say I hate exercise. And then you have to find a greater value proposition to change the behavior. So let's just say I hate exercise, and it can't necessarily just be weight loss, but the value of exercise gives me more energy, therefore more productivity. Therefore, my energy, my productivity attracts more people and life is just easier there. So I changed the belief. I flipped the belief to I love exercise because I love having more energy and being more productive because I value energy and productivity. You have to value the reason you change, and it can't be superficial just to lose weight. It has to be deeper in your core. And then what happens is, now we're going to neuroscience real fast. When you flip the belief, create a new belief, to create the value proposition, you have to, that's an affirmation, and you have to repeat that affirmation every day as much as possible. I love exercise because I love feeling great. I love having energy. I love, and reaffirming that value proposition. So your brain actually weakens the old belief to strengthen the new belief, so that eventually you're not forcing yourself to go to the gym anymore. You're just going because you want that energy. You want that productivity. You want to feel good all day. And so your brain's like, get to the gym. I want to feel good all day versus, oh, I hate going to the gym. And so any change that you're looking to do is a transformational process that begins with identifying the beliefs that you currently have that hold you back, flipping the belief to create a new belief, a new value proposition, and then a continued affirmation till your transformational process ends.
It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense when you break it down like that. Thanks for sharing that. And I totally get it. Okay. Two quick questions for you before we finish up here. One,
Sure.
I'm really jealous. You did something that is on my bucket list, and you were part of, I mean, it is doubly cool because you were part of the first all-female group to ring the opening bell on the New York Stock Exchange. How cool is
Yes,
that? Was that awesome?
it was so cool. Definitely a memory that will remain vivid for the rest of my life. It transpired because a mentor of mine, mentorship's so important. I literally could pinpoint every critical moment of my life, can tie back to a mentor that I had along the way. Um, a woman who created Make Mine a Million, an organization to teach 1 million women to become millionaires, was started by this woman, Nell Merlino. Nell Merlino was business partners with Gloria Steinem, and they created Take Your Daughter to Work Day back in the 70s.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, right? Super cool. So when I met Nell, I was like, I need to be a part of this woman's world. Like, she's so amazing. And I had already had some success in my life at that point. But I said to her, I'll do whatever I can to learn and grow from you, but also contribute back to these other women to help them become successful. And so during that time period, I was launching another company called the Butler Bag Company. And I was just fascinated at the data that by 2006, there was less than 3% of women in the world creating wealth. Less than 3% creating wealth. And I was like, how is that even possible when 50% of women are going to college at that point? And what is it that's not allowing that glass ceiling? It's not even a glass ceiling. It's our own ceiling to not be shattered yet. So my psychology in me is how to really figure it out. Well, I figured it out. Goes back to the same thing as the gym, the beliefs. The
Yeah,
beliefs that
the
women had around,
reprogramming. Sure.
correct. That they had the lack beliefs, the limited beliefs, the beliefs if I'm too successful, then I'm the B word, I'm not a good mom, I'm not a good wife, no one wants to be my friend anymore. There's so many beliefs that were running through these women's minds around if I'm too successful, that were causing their own ceiling to keep them from progressing. And so I set out to create my company, the Butler Bag Company, to become $1 million company in the first year of business, so that I could be an example for other women. I didn't come from a great childhood. I didn't come from money. I didn't have all these resources. I bootstrapped the whole thing. And if I could do it, you can do it too. Oh, and I also had twin infants at the time.
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to create a scenario where I could take all excuses away. And within that first year of business, it hit $1 million. In the second year of business, it hit $10 million in sales. And so that's how I got to do that. That was a driving, being aligned with that as a mentor, and then being mentored in that environment just gave me such fire. Because one thing about women and men that are often different in the psychology of success is men are like, I'm going to be successful to provide for my family. It's this old like hunter mindset,
Sure.
primitive, where women still with the old programming are like, well, I got to do it for a reason bigger than myself, or it's selfish. And so my reason became everybody else. And also my daughters, because I knew my daughters were going to be looking at me as their role model. And so when Nell had that opportunity to ring the stock exchange, she picked a few of her favorite women and favorite stories, and that's how it all came to be.
That's awesome. I am jealous. Well, you get there again, call up your buddy Andrew. Do me a
I
favor.
will.
All right. Okay. I always like to end with two things. One is give us one lasting tidbit, quick tip that you want people to remember. So let's hear it.
Well, one of the ones that I feel resonates with people the most is have more fear of regret than failure, which is right on behind me.
Yeah.
And the reason that one is so important to me is because so often in life, and this isn't just in business, this is just trying things that stretch you to a different place. People are afraid of failure, afraid of looking silly, afraid of people making fun of them, afraid of being abandoned, afraid of judgment. And if we go through life like that, we will never maximize our potential. And so, I as I was going through my process of success and really stretching myself to grow, one of the things that so many of my older mentors would say was the thing that they hated the most in life was regret, and not doing things, not trying things, being afraid of ruffling someone's feathers, or being afraid of being told no, or being afraid of alienation of their friends. And it's so silly when you're sitting there at 80 or 90 years of age that you cared about what people thought of you in your 30s or 40s or whatever. And you steal that, literally steal that from your legacy.
That's interesting, but I love it, and I think it reigns true and resonates with probably most people, as I still remember my one or two regrets.
Yeah.
Okay, so in closing, why don't you tell everyone how they can learn more about you, follow you? I know you have many different tentacles there, so I'll let you plug what you think is most important and best for people to connect further. And I think this was wonderful. So thank you for sharing this.
Thanks. Absolutely. So I'm very active on social media. So it's my name, Jen Groover, on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Um, I play around with the TikTok world, but still like an extra thing for me. I'm trying to figure out how to integrate it so it's not one more thing. But
Right, right.
and then there's my website too. And if you just Google, there's a bunch of videos that will pop up that talk more about this kind of stuff.
That's awesome. So Jen Groover on basically any social platform, a little bit on TikTok if you want to see her dance. So
Definitely not that.
me neither. Jen, what a pleasure, what an inspiration you are for many people. And I want to thank you for giving us your time today to share that. Again, Jen Groover on social platform. We thank you very much. I thank you very much. And to everyone watching, if you enjoyed it, share it with people you think will appreciate it as well. And as always, I'm Andrew Rosen, president of Diversified. Stay wealthy, stay healthy, and stay happy. Take care.
Thank you.